Okay, now that I'm all wired up, I feel like I'm on undercover on a drug heist. I want to talk about the role that the internet can play in education. And of course, the internet is there, and we all love it, and we're all addicted to it, and we're all confused about what kind of role it can play in learning, in education. Well, those of you that are in my classes know that there are a few things that I'm very excited about. I'm excited about Moodle. I'm excited about the ability to use the internet to share information with you, to make resources available, to plan assessments. I'm also very excited about this idea of flipping the classroom, the idea of making more time available in the class for guided practice, for working on problem solving by putting a little bit of the learning of new material, new knowledge into your homework in the form of watching YouTube videos, for instance. But the question is a little bit, is this truly transformative technology? Is this really changing what education means? I'm not sure. I think, if I'm completely honest, that most of what I do every day in the classroom, I could have done with a blackboard and a piece of chalk. The internet is great, but it doesn't really change what education is about. So, how can we use the internet in a way that is transformative? Well, when I was working as a management consultant about 10, 15 years ago, and we were trying to analyze at that time in which ways the internet could possibly completely revolutionize business and change society. The kind of framework that we used was this, and a couple of guys at BCG came with this. And those of you that are interested at going into business, at becoming entrepreneurs, I can highly recommend these ideas to you. And the framework was that of richness and reach, and the trade-off between those two. Now, what does it mean? Reach here, on the bottom right, means the ability to reach large audiences at low cost, minimum human input, uniform products, uniform services. Richness, on the other hand, means the ability to customize your services to individual needs, to, on the basis of deep personal knowledge of what your needs are. But of course, that's expensive. It requires a lot of human input. And in the end, there's always a compromise. There's some kind of trade-off. And in any business, you have those kinds of trade-offs. And this is where the internet can become really powerful, because this is where we can allow the internet to shift this trade-off, to shift this curve. And the internet can do that because a lot of things that are difficult for us humans, that are very time-consuming, working with large amounts of data, those are very easy for the internet to do. Computers can do this much more efficiently than we can. And if you can, in a business, shift part of that labor-intensive process of working with data to computers, you can really shift an industry. Now, some examples of this, and you come across it every day in your life. It's the difference between a tailor-made suit and off-the-peg confection. It's the difference between a Michelin star meal and getting a quick burger. Or it's the difference between having a chat with a good friend that knows you and spending the evening in front of the television. So where does education fit in this? Well, on one extreme, you would have the idea of a private tutor. Someone that is with you around the clock, that knows what you need, that knows what you know already, that knows how you learn best, that knows what kind of exercises would challenge you and would help you. And of course, that's not available to everyone, for the simple reason that there are more of you than there are of us. So what we end up is somewhere here. And this is where a high school would typically be. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's just a trade-off that has to be made. And as most of you are to university fairly soon, you may find yourself somewhere here. All of a sudden you are in a lecture theater with 300-400 of you listening to one professor. And you may never get the opportunity to speak to him or her. Or, to be honest, you may be somewhere there where it depends very much on the kind of courses that you take and the kind of university you go to. But I think something really interesting is taking place at the moment, and that has started to happen about 5 or 6 years ago, and you're all familiar with it. And that is that idea that started with Sal Khan uploading videos on YouTube, his little 5 to 10 minute videos in which he explains a short little concept very clearly. And it is being used by hundreds of thousands of people all over the world to revise what they learned in class, but also to learn things that they could never learn because they don't have access to education the way you do. It's also very interesting what they started at MIT with the Open Courseware project. The idea of filming the best lectures by the best university professors and making those available to the whole world. And everyone should watch Walter Lewin's lectures on physics. Please do. They are absolutely fantastic. And Donald Sadoway's lectures on chemistry. They are mind-blowing. And the interesting thing is this is now really about breaking through boundaries, through borders of income, of nationality. All of a sudden, people that never had access to that kind of first-class education, all of a sudden do have access. And I think this is revolutionary. But it's limited. Because basically, this is purely playing a reach game. Zero richness. And I think this is where all of a sudden we're now starting to see something new happen. And this is something of just the last year or so. And what we've seen is that what started with just those lecture videos on platforms like iTunes U is turning into something that is becoming quite a bit richer. And you may have had the opportunity to explore this idea of MOOCs, massive open online courses. It's a very revolutionary idea. So the idea is that you take those televised lectures, those filmed lectures, and you add to that some richness in the form of assessment, feedback, discussion platforms with fellow students from all over the world, online discussions with your tutors at MIT, at Stanford, at Caltech, or wherever they may be. And of course, it's not a Stanford experience. Hey, you're not as an Ivy League colleague, but you're learning the same material at free of charge. Everyone can do it. You could start tomorrow. I'm starting a few courses as a student after New Year. I'm a student again. I think this is a really revolutionary development. And similarly, what started with Sal Khan's videos on YouTube is turned now into the Khan Academy. And what is he doing? He's adding richness to this. He's moving in a vertical direction. He's adding elements of assessment, of feedback, of identifying what it is that you're learning and how far you are in your learning. And I think it's really pushing this vertically towards richness. And this is where it becomes interesting for us in a school like ours. Because, as you saw before, richness is the area where we can really improve in a high school environment. And so why is this important? Because as part of your experience in this high school, maybe at times that you feel a little bit like this fellow here, bored, because I'm explaining something to you that you already understand. Or frustrated because you fail an assessment and you knew that you were going to fail the assessment. You were not ready for it, but you have to take the assessment anyway because the class is taking the assessment. Or there may be some conflict between some extracurricular activities that are massively important to you for your personal development, but they clash with academics. They clash with schedules of homework and assessments. Or you've just been ill for a couple of days and you come back to school and you're a few classes behind the rest of the class. And how do you catch up? Now, for all those problems, the solution that we tend to look for is a solution at the front of the classroom. It's the teacher's responsibility to solve this. And the tools we use for that are ideas like differentiation in instruction, the idea of personalized learning. And very often, unfortunately, it means that for a teacher like myself, that means that I tell you to come and see me after class for some one-on-one interaction and some one-on-one extra help. Which is great, because we teachers love that, but it's in the end still very much teacher-driven. And teachers are professionals that enjoy that type of challenge. We all become teachers because we like to work with you as individuals. But I think this is the point where those kind of online technologies can really revolutionize what learning is about. By bringing part of that Khan Academy style online learning environment into the classroom. Not replace it, but give it a place inside our classrooms. Basically, allow your laptop to be your one-on-one, individual, rich tutor for at least part of your school day. And I think this opens up some really interesting questions. Questions, for instance, but also, if you look at basically what this can do, this is what the Khan Academy looks like nowadays. So if you log in as a student, and this is an example that's very much elementary school mathematics, but what it can do is it can identify what the pieces of information are that you have to learn. Very neatly organized on the right of this picture here as different chunks of information. Now, this is what, for teachers like us, we would call sort of standards and benchmarks, or what you as a student would be familiar with as sections in your textbook. But behind each of those squares and stars is not only a little bit of text, and possibly a 10-minute Khan Academy video, but there's also practice. There's also feedback, there is assessment. And if you look on the left, it shows you where you are on your individual path towards mastering what has to be learned. And it tells you what your next challenges should be, where you should go next. So these kind of platforms, which are now being rolled out and that schools are experimenting with in elementary school mathematics, I don't see how this couldn't be used in any of your courses. How this couldn't be part of what doing IB chemistry is about. Or for any of your subjects, for that matter. It will be difficult, but I think it will create a much richer, a much more personalized, a much more individual experience. Self-paced learning, you decide how fast you go. A game-like interface. We all like to play games. We like sports, we like video games. This is about quick challenges and immediate feedbacks. This is about diagnostics. And again, this is where the internet is so much smarter than we teachers are. The internet computers are so much better at keeping track of what kind of mistakes you made and what kind of exercises you should do to address those flaws. And also it gives teachers the ability to find out where all your students are. Who are the students that need a little bit of offline extra help? Who are the students that need some enrichment activities? And also very interesting, this allows us to analyze where we are. So this allows us to find out what the explanations are that really help you. What the exercises are that bring you forward. What the correct amount of homework is that you should do. Now, and then we get to some interesting questions. Because I think with this kind of technology, if we integrate this into our everyday teaching in the classroom, we can look at, for instance, the questions of whether we can unbundle the process of learning a little bit from all those other things that take place in the classroom. Learning isn't only about, being in high school isn't only about learning your academic subjects. It's also about all those other things that are massively important, but they're bundled together, and maybe we can pull them apart a little bit. Should your learning be dictated by your age, by your grade level? Should your learning be dictated by the restrictions the practical restrictions in scheduling that the school can organize? And can we somehow unbundle the process of learning from all those other exciting things like growing up, interacting with your peers, learning how to deal with parents, with adults other than your parents, becoming a leader, becoming a cooperator? Also, an interesting question, how do we look at grading? Does it make sense that you finish a one-semester course with a C? Doesn't that C just tell you that there is some follow-up work that needs to be done? That maybe others may have finished the course, but you're not quite there yet. There are some specific bits of learning that you still need to do. Shouldn't everyone complete every course with an A, but just in a slightly different time frame, possibly? And then also, very interesting, what kind of role am I as a teacher going to play in this? I'm excited about this. I would like to think that with the help of this kind of technology, we can become less organizers of classroom activities and more coaches, counselors to you as individuals. But then, of course, the big question, what does it mean for you as a student? I think these are massively interesting developments if you want to learn. But of course, there's an amount of responsibility that comes with that. I think it's exciting, it's challenging. And I think with those technologies, and I'm sure they're going to be the big thing in education over the next few years. You won't participate in them here in high school as you're off to university. I think they are going to drastically change the shape of university education. It's also exciting for me as a teacher, but for all of us, I think these developments over the next few years are going to be to the benefit of all, and I think they're going to be massively exciting and interesting. Thank you.